Donald Trump is having a meltdown after the Supreme Court struck down his tariffs against the world. Also, a horrible GDP readout for the fourth quarter, and inflation is coming in hotter than expected. Donald Trump was holding a presser earlier this morning with governors who were at the White House. Donald Trump then sent the press out. He kicked the press out during this press conference and said, bye-bye, time to get out, as he continued to have this meltdown. Let me show you what took place moments ago. Let's play this clip.
Well, thank you very much, everybody. Thank you very much. And I guess we're going to be asking the press to leave. And that way we're going to talk very candidly and take questions. I think at the end, it wasn't supposed to be. I just said to Susie, what about questions? Sir, you can do whatever you want. I don't know if she says that to other people that she's represented over the years. But thank you very much for being here. It's a great honor. And the media, thank you. You can leave now.
President Trump at breakfast with the governors, you heard him there saying that he's going to deliver some remarks and then take questions from the room, not from the media, and then asking the media to leave. So
now, we know from people who were inside the room, Donald Trump then started cursing after kicking the press out. He said, "These fucking courts." I don't like to curse. I'm just giving you the receipts of what actually happened. These effing courts. These effing courts is what he said over and over again. CNN got the scoop there of what went down. Let's just play this clip of what happened inside this governor's meeting in the White House after Donald Trump learned that the Supreme Court struck down his tariffs against the world. He was melting down, apparently. He was sweating. His face was red, and he just started cursing, almost like he was going to cry. I heard it was incredibly weird. CNN has the scoop as well. Let's play this clip.
About this. Yeah, Pamela, we still have no official reaction from the White House or President Trump. We are waiting. I am told that they are meeting, discussing how they are going to respond. But we have learned more about what happened in the room when President Trump was with those governors and he learned of the Supreme Court decision. Apparently, the breakfast had been going well. They were working together. And then President Trump became enraged. He started ranting about the decision, not only calling it a disgrace, but started attacking the courts, at one point saying, "These effing courts," but using the actual language there. We know that President Trump does use expletives on quite often when he is enraged in particular. Now, this, of course, comes as this tariff policy. This could not be a bigger decision for President Trump. This could not be a bigger loss for President Trump. Not only is so much of his economic agenda based on these tariffs, so much of his foreign policy is based on these tariffs. He has used these tariffs as leverage in almost every meeting that he has had around the world. He has touted them as the most important part of the economic agenda. So clearly a huge loss, and he recognizes that today. Pamela?
All right, Kristen Holm.
Now, earlier this morning, Donald Trump released the GDP data before it was officially released. It's, again, unlawful to leak that out. But Donald Trump posted this before the Supreme Court made the ruling striking down his tariffs against the world. Trump posted, "The Democrat shutdown cost the USA at least 2 points in GDP. That's why they are doing it in mini form again. No shutdowns. Also, lower interest rates. Too late, Powell is the worst." President DJT, again, ranting and raving like a lunatic this morning. And the Supreme Court said, you don't have the power under this 1977 law, IEEPA, to impose tariffs against the world. That belongs to Congress. Article 1, Section 8, the power of taxation. It's the power of Congress. And they did not in this statute called IEEPA, which talks about emergency powers to regulate imports and exports. It doesn't even mention the word tariffs in IEEPA. They didn't give you this power to tariff the world by you declaring unilaterally that there's a drug war emergency against Canada and Mexico, or that trade deficits deficits, by the way, which are increasing right now since Donald Trump imposed tariffs against the world, not decreasing, they're increasing, but saying that that constitutes an emergency and then you're going to say you can tariff the world. The Supreme Court in a 6-3 decision said absolutely no way. Go and you could watch the full analysis that Michael Popak and I did. It's the video we dropped on our YouTube channel before this. Oh, by the way, while I got you here, we are so close to 6 million subscribers. Can we hit 6 million subscribers today? You may think you're subscribed to this YouTube channel, but you may not actually be subscribed. Double check and hit subscribe right now. Also, let's talk about that GDP falling below expectations. Fourth quarter GDP below expectations came in at 1.4% versus the 3% expected. And Trump regime officials were telling us that it may even come in as high as 5%, but it came in at 1.4%. Very, very disappointing indeed. Also, inflation as measured by PCE, which is really a consumer index, consumer goods, and how inflation's affecting consumers, came in hotter than expected, 2.9% versus 2.8%, and core PCE came in at 3% versus 2.9%, which was the expected. So now, after this Supreme Court ruling, Trump and his regime have to now pay back close to $200 billion, somewhere between $175 billion and $200 billion in tariffs that they took from companies in the United States. It was never paid by countries abroad. It was always incurred. It's a tax on Americans, and companies here are passed on to the consumers. The consumers likely won't see any relief from the prices going up on their goods, but the companies that had to increase the prices, they're now going to go to Commerce and Treasury and say, give us our money back. And now it's going to be total chaos in the Trump regime as they've got to pay back the money they unlawfully stole. Who would have thought that a felon like Donald Trump, a sexual abuser like Donald Trump, a fraud like Donald Trump would go and steal money unlawfully? Who could have predicted that one right there? Monica Crowley, a former Fox host who Donald Trump made an ambassador of protocol, kind of like a spokesperson at the White House, she issued the following statement: President Trump has plenty of tools in the tariff toolbox. Don't be a panickin'. Trust Trump. What a weird criminal cult these people are who continue to cover up the Epstein files. And don't think for a second that on the Midas Touch Network we're going to forget the fact that the Epstein class cabal resides in the White House, and they're currently covering up a child sex trafficking ring by also not producing 50 terabytes or so of documents, millions of documents that they're still not disclosing them. That's one of the reasons why we're also leading the boycott against the Trump State of the Union. The People's State of the Union will be right here on the Midas Touch Network. We have dozens of members of Congress and senators who will be speaking and not showing up to the State of the Union, but they'll be here with the Midas Touch Network. So what were other Trump regime officials? You had Kevin Hassett, Donald Trump's national economic advisor, blaming Democrats for the 1.4% GDP growth. These guys can take no accountability. It was the Democrats' fault. It's Biden's fault. It's this, it's that, it's when. Y'all are in charge. Y'all are in charge. Act like freaking leaders for once. You know what? Maybe just act like grown-ups, because it will be major progress for you to simply act like adults. You know, frankly, children behave better than all of y'all. Here, play this clip of Hassett.
GDP up only 1.4% on an annual basis, fourth quarter. That's not what President Trump wants to see, is it?
Well, you know, the Democrat shutdown took about 2% off the number, according to the Council of Economic Advisors. So if you're really thinking about like what trajectory is the economy on right now, it's way north of 3. And if you look at the average of the 3 quarters since President Trump took office, abstracting from the first quarter when it was, mostly Joe Biden's quarter, then we're looking at growth of 3.2%.